Hello, and welcome to Pique My Interest, a podcast dedicated to creativity. My name is Scoob Decker, and I am an artist and your host. PMI is an exploration in meeting some incredible artists, learning about their craft, and exploring what makes them create. I went in search of a singer-songwriter, and no better place than the Music City, and I found a gem. This musical artist from California went to Nashville to become one of millions trying to make their place, and unfortunately, like most, she landed at rock bottom. But this is where Stevie Ray Stevens learned how to blossom with her powerful lyrics and catchy melodies. She uses her experiences, like losing her voice teacher, to drive the emotion of her songs. Stevie's goal is to create the story in her music to not only be heard but felt. The lyrics and melodies dance together while she takes you on a ride with the specialty of story-driven music that you immediately feel relatable to. Nearly every song tears your heart out with the unique stories and twists. Her captivating singing entrances you while she wails emotional confessions and belting with the passion that only this world-class musician can portray. She gains inspiration from local musicians, including her husband Kiernan, and by hobbies like martial arts, which actually helped inspire a whole record. Stay tuned to the end of the episode to listen to one of her songs, Dresses and Jewelry. This episode was recorded on June 12th in Nashville, Tennessee. I hope you look up their work and your interest is piqued. I hope you're having a grand day and enjoy this week's episode I've titled Resilience. Hello, and welcome to Pique My Interest. I am currently in Nashville, Tennessee, sitting in the house of this incredible artist. How are you doing today?
I'm doing so good today. The weather's nice, hanging out with good company, feeling good.
Do anything fun lately?
Yes, actually, last night I got to see the national tour of Hairspray for the first time come through Nashville, come through TPAC, and then I got an exceptional tour through the venue by yours truly. Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure. And please, pique our interest. Tell us about you. Who are you and where are you from?
My name is Stevie Ray Stevens. I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm from the Bay Area, California. The Vineyards, if you would. And I moved to Nashville in 2017. I had moved a lot before that, but this is the move that really mattered. And I've been here for almost 8 years now.
What is your craft?
I am a songwriter. I'm a musician, singer-songwriter.
And what is your specialty within your craft?
I think, I do have a theme in my writing. I kind of, I grew up on a lot of the diva voices, the big voices, and I have a little bit of that theatrical big voice. So a lot of my songwriting covers pretty unique topics, difficult topics I can tell really good stories about. But I think the thing that kind of sets me apart within my craft is the combination of voice to song and like making people believe what I'm saying and what I'm singing.
When we first got to Nashville, I had the pleasure of watching Stevie perform at the listening room with the Song Suffragettes. And they all got up in a row and they sang individual songs that they've all written. And by the time it got to Stevie, you'd realize that everybody kind of had a little bit of a theme or a mood to their songs. But Stevie starts singing, and you can really feel that story. You can really sense that passion behind her with her song singing as well as her writing. And you could just feel the passion. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're here with me. What's your background? Do you have any education in songwriting?
I do, actually. All of my education, all of my degrees are in music. There was a kind of a young moment of wondering if I was going to go into science or if I was going to go into songwriting or just music in general. It was kind of generalized. When I was 15 years old, I ended up going to the Berklee 5-week, and it was incredibly transformational. I was 15. It was 2007. I had never really been away from home by myself for that long. And I feel like 5 weeks changed my entire life, changed my entire view of what I'm capable of and what I can do. And it really pushed me. It was the beginning of recognizing that music was not just something I was good at, but something I was passionate for. And I felt like I walked into that 5-week teenage singer, essentially. And I came out a songwriter. I came out a musician. And it prompted me to work really hard to get into some really great music schools. And I ultimately ended up in Montana for 6 months, like I said. In Bozeman, I went to MSU for 6 months for their music technology program. And the winter kicked my butt. So I came home. I was not happy. And I came home. I did community college for a couple years. And I was a little bitter about it. But it turned out to be a really, really incredible time for me. And then I transferred over to CSU Monterey Bay, where I got my degree in audio engineering. From there, I moved on to a master's at Bath Spa University in Bath, England. But there was a pretty integral moment during my bachelor's in my senior year where I was going to school for audio engineering for the recording arts, and our capstone project required us to write and record an original record. Yeah, I had never done anything like that before, but I had songs. I had, a handful of songs, and I had been writing for, 5 years at that point. So I do have that record out, but it's very young. Anyway, in that process, I realized how unbelievably satisfied I get from writing music and from writing songs, and how honestly much better I was at it than everybody else in my course, and which was nice because I was the only girl in the course, and I struggled. I wanted to be great. I wanted really hard to stand out and to be making moves with my career, and it turned out that was totally not the career for me. Mm-hmm. And I put out this record, realized how much I loved it, how good I was at it, at producing the music, etc. And yeah, it prompted me to look for a master's degree in songwriting. And then I got my master's from Bath Spa University, and that even more so kind of opened my mind to the importance of songwriting and how much I can build on this.
So you've got the education, you've considered yourself a songwriter, you now moved to Nashville.
Yes.
What's it like doing the grind, being a singer-songwriter in Nashville with a plethora of other singer-songwriters trying to do exactly what you're doing?
Well, this is a great question because I have probably a very complicated answer. I've been here for 8 years, and when I first moved here, it was like being a kid in a candy shop. Just endless things to do, endless music, endless people to meet, endless motivation. And it was really spectacular. I loved it. And then there was a shift, especially during and after COVID. There was a shift in people moving away, in people kind of realizing that this is a lot harder than it looks, that there's a lot more sacrifice than you're really ready. And I'm going to tangent for a second. When I first moved here, I got coffee with one of the only people that I knew of. It was another Monterey person that I was always told that I needed to connect with. And so Sean and I connected. And this isn't my Sean Cunningham, who is a big part of my music. This is a different Sean. Sean and I got coffee, and I thought he was so full of shit. And he was telling me that in order to really appreciate it here, that I needed to hit the bottom. Like, there was a part of me that needed to, see what I was willing to give up for this. And that was a little triggering, a little PTSD, because I was on American Idol in 2012.
No.
I was in the top 75 on American Idol, season 12. And the realization I took from that was, in order to win a competition like that, I couldn't want anything else. I had to want it more than anything. And I didn't. I wanted a degree. I wanted to go to college. I wanted to write a record. I wanted to write a musical. I wanted to do a bajillion things that were so much better than winning American Idol, in my opinion. And, just to prove that I'm not just a singer, that I'm a songwriter, that my musicianship is so much more than just my craft. It is who I am as a person. So when I moved to Nashville, I realized that I was getting my wish. That everybody here is insanely talented. So talented that it's almost impossible, literally impossible, to move to this city, to do your craft, and to not get better. This town is an incubator, which is why everybody gets taken advantage of. We don't get paid enough money. We don't see any money on our streams. We work our butts off and never really see a dime. But it's all kind of worth it because it's not necessarily about how great your craft is and how hard you work on it. It's about being a good hang. It's about who you know. It's about the effort that you put into other people, because this town really thrives on your connections. Mm-hmm. And it's very authentic. Songwriting is authentic here. I mean, I can't speak for everybody. I know that there are places where it's the game and it's the grind and it's the hustle. But for me personally, I found family here. People that I can bring my songs to, people that I can trust to tell me the truth. And also people who are so unbelievably talented that I literally am incapable of being around them and not being inspired to grow and to be better. And we, in Nashville, or at least between me and my fiance who run Pin Drop Songwriter Series, we have a motto, and it's a theme, and it's called the Rising Tide Theory. It basically, when the tide comes in, all the boats rise together. And that's what we want for everybody around us and for us. So I have a love-hate relationship with Nashville. A lot of times I have to tour outside of Nashville to make money and to, get that validation of people being like, you're incredible. I've never seen anything like this. But you come back to Nashville and you're one of a million. But it's so good for the soul. It's so humbling to be around people that make you want to push your limits. So.
Now, out of this million, I mean, I haven't witnessed all of them, but I think that you stand above a ton of them.
Thank you.
At what point in your songwriting process did you find your voice? That you found Stevie Ray Stevens rather than just a musician trying to make it in Nashville?
It's a really good question. I've never really thought about that.
Because like I said, your music is so unique. It's a story. It's got passion. And when you're singing, you are pouring your heart and soul into it.
Yeah.
Even to a point where I tried to meet you after the show and you were a little caught up in everything.
I was. I get very overwhelmed by everybody's energy. So
was there a moment where you said, this is me? This is my voice. This is my music.
Yeah. There was a moment, and it's on this last record. This last record probably is my best record, and it's like a pop record. But the writing on the record is probably the most, I don't want to say me, because every record I've put out is my songs and they're me. But, this last record, Ladylike, I put out while I was living here, while I was in it, while I was being inspired by people, while I was watching people push boundaries by being more honest, by not just writing about their heartbreaks, not just writing about, the simple stuff that we hear all over the radio, like writing real stuff about their stories and how somebody's unique story that you wouldn't, like as an artist, I wouldn't think would make a good song. All of a sudden, I'm like, that's the song I want to listen to. I want to listen to the song that is about you. I want it to be believable. I want to listen to a song the way I read a book. Do you ever read a book, like a memoir or something, and then you get to the last couple of chapters and you find yourself flipping to the back to look at their picture? Because you feel like they're talking to you and you want to be close to them. You want to feel like it's their words. That's what I want my songs to be. I want someone to hear my songs and to be like, man, I just want to see her sing this live. I just want to see her talk about this a little bit. So how this last record came about, let me see if I can shorten this story. I'm so long-winded. I moved home from the UK and I was very lost. I had never been outside of school before. I've never, as a musician with ADHD and all of the creative, baggage that comes with that, I had a really hard time motivating myself to what the next move was without having a course or a teacher or a syllabus kind of pointing the direction. So for a year, I worked hard. I had like 7 part-time jobs and I was miserable. And I realized that I was miserable and that I really needed something in my life to keep me accountable for music and to give me that fire again. And for some reason, the universe popped into my mind and was like, it's not music that you need. It's martial arts. I don't know why. I don't know why. And I know that this is going to answer another question down the line of like one of my juxtaposing hobbies. But it was martial arts. And I realized that there was a lot of trauma that I had undergone while I was in England and a couple of other things that happened to me that I would have really benefited from martial arts. And I never wanted my power to be taken away again. And I literally felt my legs like ahead of my body walking downtown to the only dojo that I knew was around. And I walked downtown and the dojo was closed. And I stood outside the dojo and I knocked for like 30 minutes and like waited on the street. And I was like, I'm supposed to be here. I know it. Like the universe wants me here. And if I'm wrong, I don't know what I'm doing. And as I was giving up hope, turning around to walk away, somebody walked in and I was like, yo, do you work here? Can I join? And he did everything to deter me. And I don't know why. I don't understand. He was like, okay, well, this is really hard work. And I was like, good. I love hard work. And he was like, okay, well, you have to be in really good shape. And I was like, I work out every day. I'm in great shape. I need exercise. And he's like, oh, okay, all right. Well, there's philosophy about this. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like religion? And he was like, no, not like religion, like philosophy. Like right now we're in the month of fire. I was currently releasing an album called Burn. And I was like, okay, you're not discouraging me right now. Like this is everything you're saying is a positive. And he goes, okay, well, you know what? Last and final thing. We're a community. And I put my hand on his shoulder and I was like, you mean I'm going to make friends? And I was like, where is your sign? How much money do you want? I'll pay for the gi right now. Like can I join your when's the next class? He was like, it's in 30 minutes, but you have to do a test class and you have to watch the first class. And anyway, I walked home. I came back down to just watch the class, like bouncing my knee, just being like, let me on the fucking mat. And it happened to be this incredible female sensei. I know. It was just everything in the universe was pointing me there. And from that day on, I spent 7 days a week in that dojo for 2.5 years. Yeah, and I earned myself a black belt, and I broke all of this weird childhood trauma that I didn't even know I had. Just fear-based things that's a whole other podcast. Like we have an hour of another podcast that I could talk about martial arts and how much I gained from it. So I moved to Nashville, and it's been 3 years since I started the dojo, and I miss my dojo. And I have this job. This is a really fun, hilarious fact. But my first job in Nashville, I was a bartender dancer at Coyote Ugly. And I just wanted to dance because I love choreographed dancing. This is the musical theater in me. I had no idea that putting a bunch of alpha, edgy women in a basement bar together for a job like that, how hard it would be on me. Anyway, long story short, I got in a fight with somebody. They started it, I ended it. And I ended up losing my job. I confided in somebody about my sexual trauma, about my sexual assault, basically. And later that night, she got drunk and recreated my attack. Yeah. And I, for some reason, had this come to Jesus moment while I was also drinking. I fought back. Like my training paid off, and it wasn't something I did with my mind. It was my body took care of itself, and I knew how to yeah. Anyway, she went to the hospital. Yeah, it was a horrible thing. And I spent the preceding 3 days not being able to speak, not being able to do anything, sitting on the couch, wondering if I fucked up, like wondering if I messed up something. And if it was a fair fight, if I shouldn't have hurt her, yeah. And all of these messages, I kept thinking about her and seeing him, and thinking about him and seeing her, and my mind was all messed up. And that, one of those nights, on that third night, I had a dream, because I had been thinking about this for 72 hours. And I had a dream that I was at the dojo, and I'm doing my katana. I don't even know what the word is now. My kata. There it is. I'm doing my routine, my katana kata. And to my left, on the mat, are all of these dancers. Like dancing, like musical theater dancing. Like contemporary dancing in my dream. And I'm like doing my sword my sword routine, and I'm like watching, being like, "What? You guys aren't supposed to be on the mat. What are you doing?" And I woke up, and I realized that martial arts and my experience with it is the next step of music, is the next authenticity move within my music, and to fuse the two. And that I needed to write a record about what it means to be ladylike, and how our current term of being a woman and being ladylike is completely outdated. And that learning all of these, it's not ladylike to fight. It's not ladylike to hurt somebody. We are literally good girl conditioned to not hit, to not fight back, to not yell, to not scream, to be compliant. And in that moment, being attacked by this friend of mine and being triggered to all the other attacks that I've had made me realize that the current state of ladylike-ism is not working. And in this moment, it was the most authentic concept for a project I've ever had. It was the whole project. And so I put out this record called Ladylike that really challenges what it means to be a woman. And it centralizes around fighting back and being and I really, when I sing those songs, sometimes it's old now, I put it out in 2019, but when I sing those songs, it feels like some of my best writing, like some of my most authentic music and my most authentic self, because that's not something that you hear very often in music. And that's what I think separates me, is that I write about these. I realized that, I read something in this book about cyber PR, and it said, there's no excuse to not post on your Instagram and to not share your music, because as an artist, we are the most interesting people in the world. And it made me realize that my life is interesting. And I fused everything that I was doing with my creativity and, my hobbies, and I put it all together to create this idea of feminism and this empowering record that makes me feel very, very, very good about myself, to be honest, because that is 100% probably my top thing is making the world better for women.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah. I know that was really long-winded. That's a long story.
So now you've got a couple albums.
Yeah. Working on a fourth.
Congrats.
Thank you.
To me, that says success.
Yeah. I feel successful.
What is success in your craft? Do you consider yourself successful? And what really got you succeeding in your craft?
Great question. I wrote about this in my master's thesis, actually. Success is user definable. And that was in itself a lesson that I had to learn over a few years. I personally don't necessarily want to be so famous that I can't go to the grocery store looking like a bog witch. Like, I would like to be able to just live my life, have my, my house in a mess, be able to smoke a J on my porch. I don't need the kind of success that alters my life in that way. But what would be awesome would be to write music for other people, to write songs that are for me. I'm definitely 100% through and through an artist. And I know that the songs that I write are very much for me. But I think that I could get to a place where I can bring out some of the great stories and storytelling in other people. Seattle is not my story.
Gorgeous song.
It was somebody else came in and she was like, so I was like, what's new with you? And she said, well, my girlfriend is moving to Seattle and I think I'm going to go with her. It's only a year. And I was like, okay, but what if it wasn't a year? And what if you had to be in Nashville? What if Seattle was taking her away? And she goes, that's not at all what's happening. And I was like, did you come into this music room to make people cry though? She's like, good point. Yes, I did. So it's all about the story. It's all about creating the story that's going to make people feel something.
So let's get into the creating of the story.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your creation process. Tell me what it's like writing your songs, both lyrically and melodically.
Well, okay. I find that lyrics and melody go together, hand in hand, which is why I personally can tell when people write lyrics before melody or melody before lyrics. Mm-hmm. There are certain words that you don't want melismas on. There are certain words that you don't want the accent on, If I were to sing, Scoob is the best, right? Best is like the note, that's the top note. So that's the word that we're focusing on. And the beginning note is your name. So it's like the noun and the noun. But if I were to be like, Scoob is the best, it's like, why do you outline the word the? You know, you want to make sure that your melody and your words line up in those ways. And I think that's what makes like a really good song that people sometimes overlook. The marriage between melody and lyric.
I mean, I'll take Scoob as the best any day.
Any day.
How long does it take you to write a song?
Great question. It can take, for me, I spend on average about 3 hours on a song, I would say. I get a little hung up because I'm a perfectionist, but also like sometimes because I am ADHD, and I will go into this later. I've had a whole journey with being medicated and being unmedicated, and I am unmedicated as of 5 years ago. I was medicated for 17 years, and so I had to relearn how to use my muscle. So now my songwriting process takes a little bit longer. I've taught myself that it's okay to stop and start again. So sometimes songs will take me 6 months. I'll come up with an idea and I'll think on it and think on it and think on it and think on it, write a little thing and be like, I'm not ready. And then finally one day I'll sit down and be like, I have this idea, and then it'll all come out in the span of an hour and a half. But does that mean that it took me an hour and a half to write? Or does that mean that I sat there for 6 months and mulled over this song concept that, you know, a really great example is a song that you haven't heard. It's called Dresses and Jewelry. It's going to be on the next record. And I wanted to write a song that covered a very deep topic. And sometimes when I try to hit these deep topics, how do you cover a topic that is so deep? Like challenging what it means to be a woman, you know, in a 2.5 minute song. Mm-hmm. Like, how do you do that? It takes a minute to figure out every lyric, every line needs to have no fat. Mm-hmm. And has to further the story. Every line has purpose. And if you get to a place where every song there is no throwaway lines, then you know you have a good song. And yeah, sometimes it takes months.
So you're writing a song, you've got some good ideas, you know where it wants to go, but you can't get there. How do you overcome a creative block? You mentioned maybe
outline.
Just stepping away for a bit.
Step away, but an outline. Like sometimes I'll get in my notes and I'll see a picture. It's an illustration. You know, I know Tuesday afternoon. I knew that I wanted to say, I wanted to end it with saying, I thought I'd see you on Tuesday afternoon, because that was when we had our lessons, and that was all I had. I thought I'd see you on Tuesday afternoon, and I had that before she died, because we couldn't do our lessons, so it sat in my, and I couldn't write it, and then I literally wrote it the day after she died. Mm-hmm. I couldn't write it while she was living, which sucked because I wanted to write this song and show it to her. I wanted to write her a song that she could hear and work on. And it was the first song that I couldn't work on with her. And so it had to be perfect. It had to be good from the beginning. I couldn't need her for it. And it took me the whole day. It took me 8 hours. And I sat down and it had to be the best. And when I tell myself the song has to be the best, it's a lot of pressure. And it took me the whole day.
Yes, as artists, we are the most hypercritical of ourselves.
And I was super blocked up. I was very, very artistically blocked. I probably write a solo song for myself every 3 months, if that. I really don't push my writing, which is probably a terrible, terrible thing. I'm trying to work on forcing myself to use my muscle more often, but I'm 33. Life is hard. There's so much shit going on in my life. It's really hard to sit there and be like, okay, this 3 hours is for maybe writing nothing. But I sat down and I told myself to just start with the beginning, and that I had to just paint the picture, take people with me. And if how do you start a picture of a 19-year relationship with somebody who changed your life every time you saw them? You know, that you don't. But the best way to do that is to paint a picture, is to take people with you. And so I started that song with literally how to find her house. And, there's a rose bush at the bottom of the driveway. And talking about the French doors that she's had in every house that go to her studio. And I know that I wrote this song perfectly because when I played it at both of her funerals, because she was so beloved, she had to have a funeral in Georgia and in California. Everybody that knew her was like, every single line of that song is perfect because yeah. You want people to connect. You want people to hear a song and be like, that song was made for me, specifically for me. And that is that's success. That is success.
Yeah.
One person coming up to me with tears in their eyes being like, I can't believe you wrote that song for me. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I did write that song for you. I'm so glad to meet you.
Yeah. If you ever have the opportunity to listen to Tuesday Afternoon, please do, because after listening to it, I did feel that same thing. It was just like I've had connected with the song so much with so many of my past experiences, and it was like, holy moly, this is so real.
And you'd think that I know that our listeners may not have heard this song, but this song is very specific to me and to my relationship. You know, I've seen her every other week since I was only 13. Like, those are so specific. And even, you know, when I was broke and I couldn't afford a lesson, she'd teach me anyway and pretend that I earned them. Like, that's not anybody else's experience, but for some reason, being so honest and so specific about what solely happened to me is the trick to making people connect. People can find relation in literally everything, and I find that people relate the most to this specificity. And that was the lesson I learned in Nashville.
How do you organize everything? Do you have a notebook? Do you just keep it all up in your head and just let your fingers and your mouth kind of just figure it out?
Okay. No. I am a visual person. I cannot hold anything in my head. Like, even holding in my head to write something in my calendar is the most stressful thing. So I will sit and write. I will write like 5 words, you know, and then I'll sing it over and over and over and be like, I should write that down because I might forget it. 5 words. I might forget that. But I have a notes app. I used to be really diligent about all of my writing had to be in a songwriting book. You know, everything had to be written down so that the tactileness of writing kind of helped me remember my lyrics or whatever, right? However, you can't always travel with a book anymore, especially once you like kind of push through the ceiling of being a professional writer and writing with people constantly. I need my rights on my phone at all times. I'm on stage. I don't have my book. I'm not going to open my book on my piano. And so I kind of had to shift my method into having a really, really organized notes app. I have songs that are finished. I have songs that are just ideas. I have songs that are pinned to the top that are songs that I play. Everything is pretty organized for me.
And how often are you willing to adapt while you're writing the music? Does the music speak to you and say it should go this way? Or do you stick to your guns and say, no, this is my vision?
Sometimes I'll write something and it'll just be right. And it'll be the start of... It's like the start of a perfect song. And it's only like one line or whatever, but it's such a good melody, and you know it when you can't stop singing it. When I like can't get myself up from the piano because I just want to play this one thing over and 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 over again. I miss living alone. No, I'm just kidding. Kieran doesn't mind. But that's how I know that I'm onto something, and so I'll keep that. And if I keep hitting a wall with it, then maybe I need to like step back and be objective and be like, okay, maybe there's a better way to say this, and that's the reason why you can't get past this sentence. And if that's the case, then I will adjust. But your question is way more geared towards co-writing. In co-writes is when you can't be precious. And that's really hard if you are a really good solo writer. Kieran and I, my fiance, are both really good solo writers. And we have very similar writing techniques. He will also sit and mull over a song for years at a time before finishing them. And the two of us get together and you know, he's literally such an insane writer. He inspires me on a daily basis. I'm very, very lucky to be with my other half, who is arguably better, you know, like on my level or better. Like it's I've never really had a relationship like that where somebody is so good at what they do that I'm finding that I have to like level myself up. And that's so refreshing, and it's so nice to be with someone who makes me want to be better. But yeah, we're really good solo writers. Sometimes getting in the room together with a third you have to not get married to lyrics. You can't get married to melodies. You have to play nice with everybody, and that can be really hard. But then ultimately you come out on the other end being like, yeah, well, it all worked out. Mm-hmm. Or you play it yourself and you do it your way. Who knows?
Yeah. Everybody's path is different.
Mm-hmm.
And what inspires you? Are there any artists that really speak
Yes.
to you?
Well, I have my main three. My big three. All right, let's just say big four, okay? Let's just say big four, because Barbra Streisand wouldn't necessarily be like a songwriting inspiration, but Barbra is the queen, okay? And if you think that Barbra is only for musical theater, then you are wrong, because she is the only artist who has ever had a number one in 6 different decades. Yeah, and has sang for 3 different presidents. Like, if she's not the epitome of success and what it looks like to be a beautiful singer with a timeless voice, with timeless songs, and a memoir that is literally 800 pages long, diva. Obsessed. But my big 3 would be Alanis Morissette. You know, like, she's like, I don't want to say she's Joni Mitchell, but Joni Mitchell opened the door for confessional songwriting. Mm-hmm. And so many female artists in the 90s and 2000s were able to walk through that confessional songwriting door, including Alanis Morissette. And I think that she was so groundbreaking. Jagged Little Pill is one of the greatest records of all time, in my opinion. And I didn't realize how much of that era is in my writing, but it is. Second would be Sarah Bareilles. Sarah is the queen. She is the piano queen. And anytime someone says that my music reminds them of her, I am so unbelievably flattered. I have no words. Somebody even told me, like, how great would it be to have coffee with her? And I was speechless even thinking about it. So she's my number 2. And believe it or not, my number 3 is One Republic.
Okay.
And I know that now they're kind of this songwriting, Brian Tedder is a songwriting mogul. And he has his fingers in every corner of pop music on the planet, right? But in 2006, when I was listening to Dreaming Out Loud, and they weren't huge yet, and I was listening to the songwriting tropes, to the honesty, to the specificity, it was the equivalent of I was turning the album over to look at their picture, you know? I was opening the record to look at their picture, because their songwriting made me feel like I was having a conversation. And that in itself, that's what has inspired me so much. So those are like my big 3. Yeah. Well, Barbara's the 4th, but she's not a songwriting inspiration. She's just epic.
And do you have any hobbies? And do they complement or contradict your craft?
Martial arts is one of my hobbies. I haven't done martial arts in many years, simply because I haven't found it. I'm just afraid to go to a new dojo, but I need to. I'm going to start again as a white belt, but who cares? You know, it's not about the belt, but I would really like to start again with Kiernan at some point. I just haven't found the right place. What other hobbies do I have? Let's see.
You like to get outdoors?
I do yes, I love camping. I really like to get outdoors to no cell service. I like to go places where I am forced to disconnect and be present in my body and be present in the sunshine and with my family and friends and with my dog and my pets. It's really nice to get a break and to know that you cannot respond. Do
you use that time as a creative break as well? Or do you find that your creation continues when your brain is being freed?
Creation, yes. I feel like creation is always happening for me. I'm always saying things and being like, ooh, that would make a really, really good line 2 of a chorus. You know what I mean? Like I
guess you never know when you start with inspiration.
You never know. Really, really good example of this. When I'm on the river, sometimes I see a lot of beautiful things in nature that remind me to relax and to not be so hard on myself and to find inspiration in realism. The best example I can think of, there's an artist here in town who is incredibly inspirational and one of the best songwriters I've ever met. He has a really hard time self-promoting, so you may never find his music, but his name is Michael Conley. I Sleep in My Jeans on Instagram. And he is just, oh gosh, he just has such a way with songwriting and with storytelling. I think maybe some of that storytelling influence has come from these different people in my own community, but I was playing a round with him at a house show. Emmylou Harris was sitting on the couch in front of us. I was not prepared for that. And he played this song called Empty-Handed about a failed engagement from the woman's perspective. And the first verse, and I had never heard it, and I'm sitting there not really ready for the amount of emotion that I'm about to feel in this song. And he says, you know, there's a box of invitations that'll never go out. I put away my grandmother's wedding dress. I was getting used to the way the ring fit around my finger. All those empty pages writing your last name. First off, none of that shit rhymes. Okay? And if you can write a beautiful song with no rhyming, gosh, artistry, craftsmanship, but I got so teared up just listening to those 4 lines that it made me realize that there is no, I don't have any of that in my line. I come from a trailer park, and my mom is one of 4 girls that were abused by both of their parents. And there is no jewelry or dress or anything that's going to get passed down to me. I don't come from anything. I have no assets but this house. I have nothing. And, you know, Kiernan comes from some money and comes from, he has he's inheriting this beautiful home on the River Shannon in Ireland. And there was just something about it that like really struck me, and it was the cornerstone of a song that I could write about myself and about my history and about my lineage and about wanting to change generational trauma. And so I wrote this chorus for a song called Dresses and Jewelry, which is directly inspired by that moment. And the chorus says, there is no wedding dress in my mom's closet for me, no box of grandma's jewelry. I come from a long line of girls who've had nothing, and I have nothing to give you but me. And it's potentially one of the best lyrics I've ever written. So you really never know when you're going to find inspiration or what's going to move you. But most of the time, if I write a lyric and I feel it, like I'm like, oh my gosh, that is something, then I will sit down and I will force myself to write it.
Would you recommend anybody trying to become a singer-songwriter to go to school? Or how would they get educated?
That's such a good question. You know, 10 years ago, I would have maybe had a different answer. I made an entire career out of school. I thought school made me feel good about myself. School taught me a lot. And when I hang out with a lot of songwriters sometimes now, I recognize that my education gave me a leg up. I know things that most people don't. And it definitely was something that I deeply value. Am I $100,000 in debt? Yes, I am. Yeah, exactly. Was my education worth $100,000? Potentially. Am I seeing that return on investment now? Absolutely not. However, having education got me a really good job. Like, even though my education was in music, being able to show on a resume that I have the discipline to study hard enough to not only graduate college, but graduate magna cum laude with a 3.9 cumulative GPA. I worked very hard to graduate high school with a 4.1, all AP classes, and to also like graduate with distinction from my master's. Like, yeah, it was hard. But honestly, if I got anything out of it, was the courage to be able to do this. And to know that, like, to just have the self-validation. To be like, no, I have a degree in this. Like, I'm good at this. I don't necessarily think that goes for everyone. But, like, how uncomfortable does it make you when you interview for a job and they ask you about your skill sets and you kind of flub so that you can get the job? And then you're like, okay, well, but I really don't want to lie about this because I don't want to be in a situation where I'm having to do something that I'm not qualified to do. However, that's the name of the game, you know? But it feels really nice to go to school and to be qualified to do things. However, I've lived 10 years out of school, and I have to say that I have received an equal education outside of school. I've received an equal education on stages with other people, an equal education in this room with artists who know different things about music, that didn't go to school, that have no education, and are teaching me things that I should have known all along, like how to play along with other artists, how to hear that this, you know, when I'm sitting on stage with someone, I don't need to know the chords that they're playing because I can hear that they're going from 1 to 4 or 5. So I just got to find my route. And I'll just sit there and be like, it probably sounds like an E. You know what I mean? I'll be like, E's in there. It's not the root. So maybe I have my A. Maybe that's my G. And then I'm like, oh, it is the G. And all of a sudden I have my whole entire thing. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, G's 1. So that means that I know that I have D, I have F sharp, I have E minor, I have all my chords in my head. And that's not anything I learned technically in school. I mean, I technically did, but being able to apply it in real life is something that I learned on stage in the moment with a bunch of uneducated buffoons. You know what I mean? Like, that's like the best part of it, is that you can get an equal education not going to school and living in the life.
Yeah. What would be your advice for somebody getting started in Nashville?
Oh, great question. I love this question. I get this question a lot as the half of Pin Drop Songwriter Series, which is a collective here in Nashville that amplifies songwriter voices and songs. I answer this question a lot. Let's just talk about other cities for 1 second. Every other big music hub in the world is a little bit of everything, is of something else. You go to New York, you have Broadway, you have fashion, you have writing, you have plays, you know what I mean? You have Juilliard, you have classical music. You go to London and you have deep house, you have fine art, you have ballet, you have some acting and some music. You go to LA, you have beauty, you have acting, you have film, you have songwriting, you have pop music. You go to Nashville, you have songwriting and medical, but you have songwriting. That's it. You know what I mean? You have songwriting. You will never go anywhere in the world that is like this city, that is built truly on music. There is a reason why we call it Music City. It's the only place where you can find, literally, you can find music from 11 a.m. to 3 a.m. in every single bar, on every single floor, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Like, there is so much music here. It is so hard to not be inspired. It's so hard not to like come here and rethink your whole life, rethink all of your inspiration, and have a serious transformation moment. If I could give anybody advice, it would be to not come here and trying to win the round. Stop coming here trying to win music. Come here to learn. Stop kicking down doors. Do you want to kick down the door, or you want to be invited?
Be a part of it.
Be a part of it. When I first moved here, I am a very, very upfront, open, confident person. I have no problem talking about myself. And I came here and I was like, girl, you get a chance to start over. And if you want to start over right, you want to make real friends, be a wallflower. Go to everything. Take videos of everyone. Be everyone's friend. Support everyone. Actually listen. Pay attention to what people have to say. Figure out who your people is. Figure out your tribe. I played my first round within 6 months of being here, and it was the best thing I ever did, was to be quiet and to just listen and to just go with the flow with the river. You know, I canoe the river every summer, and life is like the river. Minimum effort. Just want to one paddle just to steer. You know what I mean? And when you come here, this town will change you, and it will change you for the better if you let it. And it's all about who you know. It's all about being a good hang, being able to listen more than you talk, being able to show up for people. I've never, ever in my life had people show up for me the way that they show up in Nashville. I have an actual following in Nashville. If you want to talk about Instagram, because a lot of people come here and are like, oh, but what about the metrics? What about the numbers? You know, whatever. But I had 400 followers when I moved here, and I worked hard for those followers. In all of the jobs that I did, all of my music that I did in California, all over the country. But I moved here, and all of a sudden it was like, I'm at 6,000 organic followers. And it's because people want to pay attention. They want to listen. They want to support. It's just different. People, I go other places in the world, and I'm like, wow. Everyone is just like, hi, what's your name? What can you do for me? Mm-hmm. And it's just not like that here. And you can spot that behavior a mile away here. And it's like, the other motto that is really popular here that scared the shit out of me when I first moved here. Nobody in Nashville gives a shit what you've done outside of Nashville. So you have to start over when you come here. And that's terrifying. But if you can have the discipline and the resilience, one of my favorite words, to sit and start from scratch, start from the beginning, and let this town mold you and build you into something really even greater than what you already came in as, then you can make it in this town. You don't call it a 10-year town for nothing.
Are there any misconceptions about your craft?
Yes, I was not born this way. I can't even tell you how many people just assume that yes, there is talent that you are born with that nobody can teach you, but I have learned so much about my craft. I have learned so much. There is so much effort that I have just put in to talking between songs. Stage banter. Oh my gosh. If you could see me right now, audience, you would see how much stress is on my face.
It's true. She gets so excited about talking about her songs, but you start talking about banter and she starts to sweat.
I had to relearn what humor was, okay? I didn't grow up with humor. So, like, having to lob between, like, the people love the trio that I put together, me, Sean, and Kiernan, which you can find all over Instagram and on Pin Drop Songwriter Series and all over the country because we tour the country and the UK all the time with our Pin Drop trio. But I have learned so much with these boys, sitting on stage and making the audience laugh and getting them onto your side, almost like a comedian, almost like a stand-up artist, and then playing my ridiculously sad, tear-jerking songs. You know, how to lighten the mood, how to bring it up, how to talk about your songs in literally 4 sentences. I give myself, if I can get away with not even introducing a song, I will. Because I'm a very firm believer that the song should speak for itself. However, sometimes a very short introduction to a song can go a long way. When I play Ladylike on stage, I used to open that with, this song's about my 2 favorite things, kicking ass and women, and I'd start my song, you know? And it's like, you want to be able to engage with the artist. Don't ever start talking about a song and be like, this song is about this. You know what I mean? Or I wrote this song. It's like, we know you wrote the song. Tell a story. Like, win me over.
Well, and that's where Stevie's music tells the story itself. Like, I don't even think you need an introduction of anything.
Sometimes I guess I don't. Like, sometimes, depending, if I'm with a bunch of, like, country artists that are singing just surface level songs, I'm like, yeah, I don't really need an introduction. Here we go. But sometimes it's really nice to talk about our music, you know? Because I noticed that people feel connected. It's the equivalent of turning to the back of the book to look at the picture. You know? It's the human aspect. Because people, that's the misconception. People are like, oh my God, I could never do what you do. So you're not like me. But I am. You know, I am. I did get my power turned off this month because I couldn't pay my bill. I did, you know, forget to show up for this thing. I did wear my shirt backwards, you know, because I rolled out of bed to get to that meeting. I am a regular person. I did only shave one leg this morning because I was lost in thought of a song. You know what I mean? Like, we're just people. We're just humans. And I think that's the misconception. And the other really big one is that, am I allowed to have a hot take for a second?
Sure.
My hot take, because this is kind of a big theme in music right now. We don't owe you anything. Like, we don't owe our audience. Like, our art is us. It's our art. And I know that we do it for the audience and we wouldn't be anywhere without, like, people to listen to our music. But as somebody who is a neurospicy, ADHD creative who gets overly excited and can't always handle feeling everybody's energy, watching someone get frustrated with me after a show because I don't have the mental capacity to, like, have a conversation with them or play a song that they want me to play, or play a cover, or, like, do what they want. I don't know. There's something about that that's like, listen or don't. You know, this is my art. This is who I am. It takes a long time to do this. Years and years and years and thousands, like tens of thousands of dollars of lessons and skill that I have honed and perfected. And when I hone and perfect all this stuff, it's a career, but it's a hobby. It's a career hobby because I have to have an actual career in order to pay for everything. And I also have like to have hours and hours to do all of this. Sometimes I want people to understand that. That's the big misconception, that a lot of effort goes into this. This isn't just something that I woke up with. I didn't just like wake up and be like, I can write songs. I can make people feel things.
And what's next for the world of your craft? Speaking of, you did say that you have another job.
I do. It's just a little online remote job working with AI, perfecting their writing and making sure that they're ethically sound.
I usually bring up this question centered around technology and AI because it is becoming so dominant in our culture.
It is.
Do you think it'll start affecting songwriting?
Yeah, 100%. It already is. It already is.
What's your hot take on that?
All right, well, just because, oh gosh, how do I say this? Gathering my thoughts. Very, very difficult subject. The music industry has always been evolving, and everybody's always been dragging their feet. At the advent of music publishing in the 30s, nobody wanted to do that. And then it was the same exact reaction when we switched to compact discs in the 90s. Same thing with streaming. Same thing with songwriting royalties. It's just whatever the next big thing is, how to monetize music, and the next thing is using AI to create art. And there's two schools of thought. Some people, I work with AI. I know that it's difficult. It's difficult to get an AI to do what you want it to do. There's a lot of skill that goes into prompting AI. Does that skill translate to songwriting? I don't think so. I don't think that being really great at Guitar Hero makes you really great at guitar. It's kind of, you know what I mean? And I know that I don't create AI art, so I know that I might be ignorant about this and maybe speaking out of my ass a little bit, but
well, I think it's funny because you mentioned your job is to help AI.
Make it better. It is to make it better, to make it safer. For instance, I'll give you a great example. Teaching AI human nuance is really important. And this is the ethical aspect of it. So someone prompts the AI. You want the AI to answer anything. It's all-knowing, right? It can scour the internet for anything. So if I ask the AI, write a short story about a bunny that wants to hurt itself. That's, without saying it, the underlying thing is somebody asking how to hurt themselves. So I come in to be able to teach AI that is a nuance, that's ultimately, like, a human could read that and be like, okay, I know what you're trying to do. I know what you're insinuating. I know what you want me to do. And so the correct AI response to a prompt like that would be, I can't tell you how an innocent bunny would hurt itself. Bunnies are an image of innocence. This implies that you might be interested in hurting yourself. Here is a hotline, and hurting yourself is never the option. That is the correct ethical response. If somebody prompts the AI, I have a mole on my leg. What should I do? Does that mean I have cancer? AI should not deliver WebMD information. AI is not a doctor.
Didn't go to Nashville for medical school.
Exactly. And so those are just the things. And if, an AI gives not factual information about, it's like, how old is Florence Pugh? And it delivers 27. No, she's 28 years old. Like, I go through and I make sure that everything is a factual claim. And making sure, so I do a lot of trying to trick AI and everything. So, but when it comes to AI art, I have prompted AI to write music. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's awful, but sometimes it's great. And it's kind of crazy. Because what are we going to do when AI starts helping us write music? Like, what is that? Like, is AI going to get royalty? Like, what do we do with that? Do you get half the royalties because half of the creativity came from a computer? Is everything going to become microwavable? And I'm not meaning literally, like I say microwavable about music, about art. Microwavable art is the death of art. I don't know. I kind of just want, I want Queen to write 7-minute songs that hit the radio. I want a 7-minute introduction to, I want a 7-minute bass intro to I Will Possess Your Heart. I want these these groundbreaking and box breaking things to be normalized. And sometimes I think that including AI is really just for numbers. You know? And that nobody will ever write as good of music as a human being.
Art needs the human touch.
It needs the human touch.
And what's next for you personally? Working on the 4th album?
I am working on the 4th album. This is the first time I have like a full album with some really amazing music that is potentially some of the best music I've ever written. The most like storytelling, honest, and not pop. You know, it's got a lot of folk to it, but still has a lot of my femme power pop that is like really characterized by me. This is the first time I've written an album that I don't see like the whole big picture. I don't see the social media campaign. I don't see the themes. I don't see the photo shoot and the album artwork. I'm trying to figure it all out. And I originally wanted to call this record Stevie for other reasons, but I think this record is going to be called Pay Attention. And I think that that's going to be the theme. But I'm not really sure. Maybe I need to go through all my lyrics and figure it out. So that's next on my list is I'm booking a lot of tours. I am getting married next year, so I'm trying really hard to make that
Congratulations.
all fit in. And but I really am trying to put out this record. And I have most of the songs I'm in the process of recording. Tuesday afternoon is going to be on that record.
So excited.
Yeah.
And where can we see your work?
You can find my work on Spotify, Apple Music, pretty much all of the platforms. I have a couple music videos on YouTube, and you can see my day-to-day life on Instagram. However, I've been taking a 6-month hiatus. I post once a month because I cannot handle it. I'm going to get back into it. I just needed a break. If anybody that's listening, if their interests are piqued, and they find themselves in Nashville, you can find me and Kiernan pretty much every single Sunday at Sonny's Clubhouse in Germantown from 6 to 11 p.m. We play every Sunday with Pin Drop Songwriter Series. And if you're interested in Pin Drop Songwriter Series, it's a incredible community, incredible collective of songwriters out of Nashville, all telling stories. And you can find us on Instagram, and you can see our live videos that we take of all of our artists. If you're wanting to get your hands dirty with some songwriting, I would start there. I would start with checking out our stories, we got a lot of info on there, a lot of little pin drop pointers, people's different advice for anybody wanting to move to Nashville, etc. And also just come and visit.
Yeah.
Come find me.
How often are you with the Song Suffragettes?
Not too often. Actually, I think the last time I played Song Suffragettes was that exact Monday last year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but also Song Suffragettes they just got their second show. They usually have a late show as well at 8:30. They got that late show taken, and so now they're like 5-6 months behind. Ooh. Trying to fit everybody on stage. But I play with Song Suffragettes pretty often, like at least once to twice a year.
I can't thank you enough for joining me and piquing my interest. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up?
Oh, gosh, I don't think so. I don't think so.
All right.
No.
I do end it with one question.
Yes.
If you could excel at any other craft besides your own, what would you want to do?
Oh, gosh, it's like a tie. It's like a tie between dancing and musical theater.
Which is funny because you do dance in your music videos. I've seen a few of them, and your music is so theatrical in itself. There's so much story.
I know. It's in there. It's in there. I think, I was having a pretty serious conversation walking back to the car after the show last night. Kiernan started interviewing me, asking me about where my heart is when it comes to musical theater. And, pointing out that if I really wanted to do this, maybe I am good enough to do this. And what's the harm in auditioning? And he's like, what if you did get onto, even if you got into the ensemble of a national tour that got, that did a week in every city, how would I feel about leaving for a couple months to do that? And, my heart flutters because it would be checking a huge box. I would be taking Nahad with me. That would be a win I can't even think about it. That would be... I can't even think about it. That would be so incredible.
Well, keep on auditioning, because that's my world.
I know, and I always thought that maybe I had to get my success in songwriting before I could even move into that. But maybe it's not that. But yeah, I can see myself really loving that. But I think maybe writing a musical is like exactly, that's maybe more of like that. There it is. That's writing a musical and being in it. There it is. That's the box.
Now we might have a future collaboration, Stevie. And thank you to all my peakers out there. Please let me know if you know of any special or unique artists or art forms you think I should explore. I am currently in Nashville, Tennessee, and cannot wait to see where Pique My Interest takes me next. Remember, creativity comes from the heart. Push yourself. Be kind to each other. I'm Scoob Decker, and thank you for helping me pique my interest.
Alright, this is the song I referenced. This is called Dresses and Jewelry. This is a song that's about my family and about me and about moving into a new life with my life partner and letting go of generational trauma and my future. We lived in my godmother's spare room before calling a trailer park home. My dad went to night school to pay for a nice school, and Mom drove me an hour down the road. She said, honey, find someone who loves you like we do, who's patient and driven and kind. Her history was painted with pain and hatred, and on the steps she took to leave it all behind. Leave it all behind. Now I wasn't much younger than they were when you sang me a song about life. Your voice was so honest and my tears were falling like hours for the last time. Ooh, for the last time. Now there is no wedding dress in my mom's closet for me, no box of grandma's jewelry. Come from a long line of girls who've had nothing. I've nothing to give you but me. Now I've never loved someone like I love you. You're exactly the one that I need. So I sat with your mother and I told her I loved her and I'd be the best daughter I could be. Now, family is more than a bloodline or headstone. It's a promise to love beyond us. And one day the world will belong to our children, and they'll find it better than it was. trailer park turned to a farm on a hill where my dad wants to give me away. And our moms will both smile when I walk down the aisle and promise to love you every day. Every single day, 'cause there is no wedding dress in my mom's closet for me, no. A box of grandma's jewelry. I come from a long line of girls who've had nothing, and I have nothing to give you but me. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.